Aye, Captain.
I can't hear you.
Aye, Captain.
Oh.
Who has a podcast and lives in Canada? Sometimes Ciabatta slaps.
There was no way I was making that work. I was like, SpongeBob SquarePants. Ew, a podcast by SpongeBob. Oh, disgusting.
Disgusting. Rachel, that's disgusting.
That's disgusting.
Hello. Welcome back to Sometimes Ciabatta Slaps. I'm Mac.
I'm Jubes.
And how's your day, Jubes?
Today, so long ago. It's my first day off for a while, it feels like. And then it's my last day off for a while, it also feels like. So I didn't do enough.
Oh, yeah.
But I had such a raging headache that I did too much, you know? Like, I really needed a nap.
Yeah.
But I got to see my niece, Keegan, Graylin's cat.
Oh, yeah.
She's so lovely. She didn't say hi to me at all.
How
like,
rude.
went over, I was like, it's so nice to just not be acknowledged by you. But that's okay.
That's sweet.
It was good. I got to chill at his house for a bit. And I didn't even clean it, so
there you go. Boom.
that's progress.
We're releasing like the possessive older sister thing.
I know, and it actually is pretty dirty, but I didn't really want to do anything about it, so
That's fair.
just spilling all of his tea. He's a 20-year-old boy living on his own. What do you want from him?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Oh well, how was your day?
Day was fine.
That's good.
Nothing eventful.
Yeah.
Yesterday though,
Oh.
because I've still been congested.
Mood.
It's been like 3 weeks now.
Today is 3 weeks to the day
That's
that I've
wild.
been sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then I was 2 days prior.
Oh, did you get sick before me?
I got sick after Vancouver.
Oh, I got sick the day you left.
Oh, okay. So then I'm just
for
a couple days
Vancouver,
later.
I
then.
think. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm almost at 3 weeks then.
Yeah.
Anyways, so to release some pressure in my head, I went to clean my ears yesterday, and I have this really fun reflex that every time I clean my ears, I cough. I don't know why. I've Googled it. It just says that there's like some nerve thing there, some nerve reflex that happens.
That's so weird.
It has been that my entire life.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I coughed so hard I threw up a little bit. I was like, oh, that's a first.
We love that.
Yeah, it was. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So I said that to some of my friends, and one of them's like, you've never been sexier. I'm like, I know.
Yes. That's
I've-
such a turn on.
I have peaked. And on that news, we're going to talk about hormones.
Yes.
And on that note,
And on that note, I just wanted to say happy December Fool's Day to everyone because it's the 1st of December when we're recording this, and the 1st of every month is that month's Fool's Day for me.
yeah. And when this episode comes out, we'll be on our 3-month anniversary.
Really?
December 6th.
Oh, yay!
I know.
December 6th, isn't that the day that Pearl Harbor got bombed?
It's also 3 months, so sometimes you're slaps.
You can choose which one to celebrate or acknowledge. I'll leave that in your hands. But yeah, anyway, like Michaela said, we're going to talk about like cycle syncing, which
We've had requests. Like,
yeah.
when we were sourcing for topics and whatnot, when starting this podcast, and even more recently on Halloween, we had someone come up to us and be like, hey, can you talk about this? Because it's not talked about enough. And
Yeah.
she's a little bit older than us, but not like by anything dramatic.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't know anything about this, and it's not something that's recognized, especially in health and fitness and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of women are ignored when it comes to researching health and fitness and planning workouts and doing that. It's all focused towards men, which is annoying as a woman. Yeah.
And so, and then, men who are on a 24-hour, hormone cycle.
Yeah.
Whereas women are on a 28-day cycle.
Yeah.
So with men, you get peak testosterone in the morning, you can work your day, and then it lowers at night, which makes you tired.
Yeah.
Which follows a normal work pattern, which is essentially probably why the work pattern is the way it is in the first place.
Well, yeah, we kind of have to ask ourselves, like, is this work pattern normal for everyone, or is it normal because we live in a patriarchy? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of, we do kind of get into all of this as well, or I do at least, but...
Yeah, Journey, like, she went off on the research.
I channeled my university ability to research, and I just did it.
That's sort of like what happens like when you're passionate about this, and
yeah, and it wasn't hard. I was like excited, and I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot learn enough about this subject because it's so interesting.
Yeah,
and it's such an easy way to improve your life. Mm-hmm. Like, really, one of the things is just like make it so that women can have better well-being or something. It was like optimistic well-being or something. And I was like, yeah, snaps for that.
Optimistic well-being, that's like kind of the goal, like when I say like...
Yeah.
And we're going to get into toxic positivity and everything that comes down. But there is a fine line between optimistic well-being and toxic positivity. And
yeah.
That's where the whole, like, I mean, hustle, whatever, growth versus positive affirmations. Like, there's that fine line and whatnot. And
yeah.
So in this, anyways, that's a different topic, but...
Yeah. It was, yeah, I wish I had screenshotted it because it was like really, really good.
Yeah, so basically our setup for today is we are going to talk about the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. So this might not be interesting if
you don't have a menstrual cycle.
Yeah, but either way, it's good to know.
Yeah.
And quick note before this, we are not professionals. We are just trying to learn about our bodies. I'm touching on this in my nutrition course, so I will give some nutrition support options. Even our Journey's main source that she found is a nutritionist as well, so she took a lot of her information from a professional.
Yeah.
Eventually, we would like to have professionals on the podcast for
it would be so
an
cool.
in-depth
Well, I think
Q&A.
even after we do this episode, we should like send it to her and be like, hey, do you want to come on and tell us more?
Yeah. So I guess we will start with the 4 phases of your cycle.
I also wanted to just preface this that when I'm saying women, I'm referring to people who menstruate. So yeah. And if you're on hormonal birth control, this does not apply to you, which is kind of annoying, but it's still interesting information to know for when you are off hormonal birth control. And a lot of like what Michaela will talk about does apply and will help you even.
Yeah. I think even with hormonal birth control, even though it's not like your natural cycle, so to speak, I think you do microdose some of those like rise and lower. So there are some things that will support, however.
You definitely still have the energy fluctuations and stuff. Yeah. And like Michaela said, we're not experts and there aren't currently any like scientific studies, but there's so many studies on how hormones impact your energy, your mood, and appetite and sleep. They just haven't related it back to a woman's menstrual cycle.
There are some with birth control in athletes, though. Okay. When I was doing some research, I found some scientific like journal studies. Yeah. Of testing female athletes, female soccer players who are on birth control and how that affected their...
Oh, that would be interesting to read. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. So the basis of this is that women are on an infradian rhythm, which is like one of our internal timekeepers. The other one is the circadian rhythm. Only women experience the infradian rhythm, but men and women both have a circadian rhythm. And so the circadian rhythm operates on a 24-hour cycle, and it's like your sleep-wake cycle, whereas the infradian rhythm operates on a 28-day cycle, which is why it's linked to our period, because most often periods are on a 28-day cycle, but obviously there's range depending on who you are. And men operate, like Michaela said, on the circadian rhythm, so their testosterone is produced around that cycle, whereas our... I guess like reproductive hormones are produced in the infradian rhythm in the 28-day cycle. So we also have to take into account those hormones as well as the ones that are produced on the circadian rhythm. But why do you guys care? So your infradian rhythm creates actually 25% change in your brain chemistry over the course of a month, which is a lot and actually incredible. And so our metabolism also changes predictably through the month. So how we eat and how we can work out changes, which is why we decided on this episode, because I was getting slammed with TikToks about working out around your period, kind of.
And that's based on hormone levels, which I'll get into a bit later.
Yeah. And so like in one part of our infradian rhythm, our cortisol levels are higher, which forces us to do, or which if we force ourselves to do an intense workout, it increases them even further, which adds to inflammation, stress, anxiety, blah, blah, blah. And our infradian rhythm and our circadian rhythm work together. So if one of them is out of balance, both of them are out of balance. And
well, it's funny, like in your circadian rhythm, your cortisol actually spikes in the morning too. So if your cortisol is already high and then you're waking up already stressed and you have to do whatever, like naturally you need cortisol to wake yourself up.
Because I don't really know what cortisol does. Like, that's the hormone I know the least about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll get into it.
Okay, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
And it's just like hormone imbalances can contribute to PMS systems, which suck. So, did I say systems or symptoms?
Systems.
Okay.
I like systems. PMS systems.
Yeah.
Step 1, have a tantrum about your food not cooking the right way. Step 2,
your toes feel funny.
Step 3, you scream at your boyfriend for breathing.
Literally. You smell too loudly.
Step 4, you get called a bitch for no reason and then you lose it even more.
Literally. Reaffirming the stereotype.
Oh, so funny.
Okay, so what is cycle syncing? I'm sure you guys would just love to know. So this term was first used by Elisa Vitti in her book Woman Code in 2014. And Michaela informed me that that book is on our reading list for our book club. So I'm very excited about that. And she has written another book called In the Flow, FLO, which talks more about how to practice cycle syncing, which would be interesting. She's also the creator of the Flow period tracking app. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so like this is when you sync workouts, nutrition, and supplements with your period, so that you can feel better throughout the month and optimize your hormones. And we have different calorie, fitness, and nutrient needs throughout the 4 phases of our cycle.
So when it comes to the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, the way they're written down is either follicular first or menstrual first. We're just going to talk about menstrual first because that's like the first day of your flow.
Yeah.
So your menstruation is when the corpus luteum degenerates, estrogen and progesterone levels fall. So that's basically everything is just leaving your body. And that is when, because of the hormone levels being so low, it's claimed that you are actually the clearest thinking. So even though you may feel like shit, your brain is nice and clear.
You're able to think through the shit.
Exactly. And then your follicular phase happens where your estrogen levels rise as estrogen is produced by developing follicles. Progesterone is not typically produced during this time. Ovulation, estrogen levels drop upon ovulation, which means progesterone is higher, not high, but higher. And then your luteal phase, the progesterone levels rise with the development of the corpus luteum. Estrogen also rises during this time. So this is where also a lot of people feel a lot of energy and typically can work out harder or whatnot.
Interesting. That's funny because I have in my notes that follicular is where you feel the most alert and energized the week after you get your period. And then as the luteal goes on, you feel energized after you ovulate, but as the week goes on, you de-energize.
Interesting.
That's very weird.
Well, and so there was this one site. I was looking for additional sources other than just like my hormone book, because that one goes really deep into what each hormone is, but then rather than the interconnections of everything. And so this one book, article described it as the 4 seasons, right? And so they took the menstrual as winter, spring for follicular, summer for ovulation, and fall for luteal.
Right.
And so using the 4 seasons for that, winter for me, cozy, don't do a whole lot. That's your flow, right? Your energy's low. And then spring is like you're starting to get there, but you're not 100%. Summer is like you can do anything. And fall is like you're getting tired, but you can still wrap it up and you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Seasonal depression hasn't quite kicked in yet. And so just kind of on top of that, like when you're in your menstrual phase, your metabolism is faster, your cortisol levels are higher, your energy is low. In your follicular phase, metabolism is slower, cortisol is lower. Depending on the source, you can feel alert and energized or not, I guess.
Yeah, that's one thing, again, even when I was like trying to set that in stone.
Yeah.
So many different studies.
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, it can, for specifically ovulatory and luteal, like those two kind of go back and forth on where you feel more energy. I think there's multiple lifestyle factors that will then contribute to that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then like when you're ovulating, your metabolism is slower, cortisol levels are lower. And it only lasts typically about 24 hours, but it's usually like the middle 4 days of your cycle. And then luteal is metabolism is faster, cortisol levels are higher. And yeah, hormones begin to dip. Okay. So now to take what we know about the phases of our period, our menstrual cycle, and kind of put them in terms of working out, like what each phase means in terms of working out. We are able to keep cortisol, insulin, and progesterone levels balanced by working with your body's natural energy levels throughout those phases.
Yeah.
So with the follicular and ovulatory phases, the workouts that work best for you are cardio and HIIT workouts because you're able to use your glucose storage for energy, fat burning, and building more lean muscle.
This also includes like weightlifting, strength training, because you will still use those glucose stores when you're doing lifting heavy weights.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it keeps your cortisol levels low. You're not adding on to the stress that you already have. And then during the luteal and menstrual phases, you need more calories. And if you don't increase your caloric intake, then it will cause a hormonal imbalance and trigger fat storage. And so to prevent raising your cortisol levels, it's recommended that you only work out for about 30 minutes. And then you choose like low cardio workouts like Pilates or yoga or strength training.
So I wouldn't even say cardio for that one, but like especially for menstrual, I would just say like more restorative kind of yin yogas and whatnot that isn't going to exert a lot of energy.
Yeah, especially when you're actively menstruating, it's recommended to even just do stretching or just walking. So like use those days to like as like active recovery days, kind of.
There was one source that I found. I'm going to say this because I found it really interesting that during the menstrual, they said because your pain tolerance is typically higher, lifting weights may be an option if energy allows it. Yeah,
I read that too.
Yeah.
Which I was like, because it is technically low cardio.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
If you lift weights like the gym bros where you do a set and you sit for 5 minutes, then you do another set.
Yeah. But it won't be like your max lift PR, I think, time. It will be very light because you're going to use up those glucose stores faster because your body is actively using them to repair itself.
Yeah.
And just everything that happens during the flow.
It's really interesting on TikTok. I see a lot of videos of people like, oh, this was me lifting 100 kilograms the week before my period. This is me lifting 100 kilograms on my period. This is me lifting 100 kilograms after my period. And just watching how the same weight can be moved so differently is crazy. But
well, then it's easy to spiral, right? Like I've been there. I've been working out steadily for just over a year now.
Yeah.
Year and a few months. And how quickly it is to get so hard on yourself. And like the main motivation too is like even when you just step on a scale, right? If you don't know what the breakdown of your body is, you could have high estrogen, you could be retaining water, you step on that scale and suddenly you're 15 pounds heavier and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's so different.
15 is a little bit dramatic, but
you know what I mean? Like,
it's like, what the fuck? And then it's like, I can't lift anything. Like, what the heck happened? Like, literally 2 days ago, I could chest press 20 kilos, and now I'm like down to 10s.
Which is why it's so important to know this, because if you can track your cycle, and while you're working out, you can pay attention to this, you're less likely to go into that spiral of like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. Oh my goodness, this isn't working out for me. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's like, oh, actually, I'm just about to get my period and that's why I can't move this as easily as I could. otherwise.
Was it a few weeks ago, like or a few episodes ago? I literally had that. I'm like, I spiraled after going to the gym. I couldn't do anything, and then I got my period the next day.
Yeah, which I was gonna talk to you about. I was gonna ask you, like, so where were you in your cycle when that happened?
Yeah, no, I was like 2 days before getting it, and I was just like losing my mind.
Love that. Okay, so like, it's often said that exercise reduces cramping and increases blood flow during the menstrual phase, but obviously it's hard to make yourself do an intense workout, so just do like soft exercises, just like walking, moving your body. It doesn't have to be a HIIT cardio workout, you know?
A mobility kind of video where you're not just static stretching, you're
dynamic stretching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word. I was like, you're moving.
Yeah. Yeah, and you, like, I think Michaela already said this, so you don't want to do cardio and HIIT workouts because it turns on fat storage and muscle wasting.
See?
Yeah, but then in terms of productivity, which is initially what brought me onto this topic, was I found a girl on TikTok who was talking about how she runs her business in sync with her cycle, which I thought was so interesting. So, like I said, our hormones stimulate our brain differently throughout the month, which is why tasks you've been doing every day might suddenly seem hard or frustrating or whatever, depending on where you're at in your cycle.
Which is something funny. I'd just like to sidetrack here too.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, so I use just my health app on my phone.
Yeah.
To just get an idea of my cycle, because it's been all over the place since I got my IUD in June.
Right.
And so according to this, I should be on day 14. So I should be in the ovulatory, but I've been sluggish and depressed. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But
again,
it's not
hormonal birth control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's really weird to like kind of compare, because at the gym I've been feeling weak, or I've been dying this week during my HIIT workouts, the cardio days. Part of that could be because I'm still sick.
Yeah.
Part of that could be seasonal depression.
Yeah.
But we're talking about hormones, and so it's like at the forefront of my thought, and I was like, is this something that is because of the IUD, even though it's not supposed to affect your entire being? It's supposed to only affect your ovaries, but your ovaries then release all these hormones and stuff.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
Right?
Which I feel like it can't just not affect the rest of your body. You know what I mean?
It's not supposed to give you I don't get the insane breast tenderness or mood swings that happen when you are on the pill.
Right.
I only took the pill for like 2 months and I hated it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nope, done this. But yeah, so the concept is, but it's true. Like, there has to be more to it, and because this is already a new concept, to then get into these studies about different types, the shot versus the implant versus the ring versus the pill versus the,
and there's so little research on birth control as it is. That's something that needs to get researched more, because they're so toxic for women. They're so toxic. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then men are like, maybe I could wear a condom. Like, I guess it's kind of inconvenient. And I'm like, I could get cancer from this. I could get a blood clot and die. And you want a little bit of discomfort, and that's an issue for you? Like, grow a set. Be a man. In my opinion. Like,
well, yeah, because then there goes down that whole, even now we're seeing it more because they've become more prominent. Now our usage has become more prominent. There are infertility issues that are showing up in a lot of people.
Like, in the last 10 years, I'd say they've been very prominent, or at least I've been paying attention to them.
Yeah. And like, so even that's why people are doing what's the proper term for it? The thermometer testing method.
Oh, shoot.
What's the proper term for that one?
Oh, I don't know. But it's a natural form of birth control. Dang it, what's it called? It's something rhythm.
It's supposed to basically in line with your it just says basal body temperature.
Oh yeah.
Because that would then align with the rhythm that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because your temperature lowers and rises based off of your cortisol hormones, everything else that happens in the day.
Yeah, and that one would be really good also to psych your cycle.
If you want to psych your cycle.
If you want to psych your cycle, listen to SCS. That was really hard for me to say. Yeah, so even with like the basal body temperature, it would be very good to sync your cycle to that, because you have to track it for so long. And there's so much about your body that you have to know that you'll be very aware of all of these other things that it takes to actually align your cycle with your life.
Yep.
Okay, so in terms of productivity again, your menstrual phase. When you're menstruating, your left and right hemispheres of your brain are communicating super well. So like Michaela said, this is the time to think. You want to synthesize facts about situations and process how you feel about them. It's the best time to evaluate your life, reflect on the past month, and make informed decisions.
If you want to put this into like a lifestyle term, doing like a quote unquote life reset during this time might be the best. You're planning out meals and tasks and events, and while you're resting, you're not worried about physically pushing 500 pounds or anything like that anymore, right?
Yeah, it's just a time to just think clearly, which feels so counterintuitive because I'm so brainwashed into thinking women are so like crazy and irrational and emotional when they're on their periods, but it's like,
it's not on.
It's not on.
It's just before.
It's like, whilst I'm bleeding, I can think so clearly.
Whilst I'm bleeding, I just sleep.
That's a mood.
I sleep.
I am so thankful for birth control. And then in your follicular phase, you're in your creative genius zone. So it's like, this is the time to brainstorm, explore new ideas, manage projects, test new approaches, and plan your next career move, in a sense.
And part of that comes from because estrogen is linked with serotonin, so you kind of feel refreshed and happy. You have all the happy chemicals going through your system. Yeah,
you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Before it gets too high and then leads to water retention. But we'll get there.
And then body dysmorphia. And so then in your ovulatory phase, your confidence is high, and so is your ability to communicate effectively. So this is the time to have those conversations, like solve problems, network, follow up on projects, negotiate contracts. It's a really good time to be proactive. And also it said that our testosterone levels peak here, which light up the verbal and social areas of our brain. So we're more in tune with the men or whatever.
But that's also, that would explain then why you can work harder, lift heavier.
Yeah.
Because of that testosterone in your system.
Exactly.
Because that's what testosterone is made for, is to be the big, strong energy.
Yeah. It's the man hormone or whatever that makes us.
Yeah. The masculine energy versus the feminine energy.
Yeah. I just wish it lasted a little bit longer so that I could be like that all the time. So the luteal phase, which is the longest phase in your cycle. So now it's kind of time to put your head down and focus. So this is the best time for deep work. And so you want to kind of follow through on projects, examine details, do admin work. And then kind of the closer you get to your menstrual phase, you should view rest as productive, which is something you need to hear. I thought of you when I wrote that down. I was like, I have to include this.
Oh yeah, no, I just like stress guilt every time I quote unquote rest.
Yeah.
Like I'd be watching my favorite TV show, have like my favorite food in front of me, and I'll still be like, I need to do more.
No, just relax, be lazy. So in terms of the person who runs her business around her period, she schedules all of the energy draining tasks the week after her period and during ovulation week. And then she schedules the minimal energy tasks during the week leading up to her period and the week of her period. So it's just like, she calls them her daily non-negotiables she'll do, and that's it. Yeah. And then she'll just kind of protect her energy. And I'll have her TikTok in our description because it's very interesting to go and read.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it's that focus then why some articles are saying that, you can still work, like do high intensity. I wonder if it's the focus getting you through that intensity rather than the energy.
Yeah, I think it must be.
Yeah,
you have to, there's just a little switch where you're like, okay, I might not be able to do a cardio workout, but I can still focus on doing the strength training.
Or even if it is a cardio, like for personal example,
Yeah.
when I'm going through like that, like I'm feeling down or whatnot, the difference between a good cardio day and a bad cardio day is for how much I can like focus on doing that movement for 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? If I don't have that focus even, I'm done, game over. I'm checked out. I'm doing like the bare minimum, if anything at all. Like, like our coaches can vouch for that. Like,
oh yeah,
they've gotten so used to me just like doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And they know it's because I'm like, I'm tapped out. I'm done.
Yeah. I don't want to do this anymore. This is hard for me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, even if it's less about the energy, I think that the focus piece that you just said there is, is that. And then during the luteal phase, another note that I have is that you also might feel sluggish and unmotivated during this time. Yeah. And that's, I think, where a lot of the, especially in female fitfluencers, right? The fitness world right now. Yeah. You're seeing a lot of people say that it's like, it's not about motivation, it's about discipline. Right. And I think that's probably where that comes from, because everyone does have that, or every menstrual female or whatever has that phase where you do feel unmotivated and you're just kind of like, blah, I don't want to do this today. Yeah.
No, that's very interesting. And I think a part of that is like, with the discipline, you don't need to be lifting as heavy. It's just the fact that you're doing it. Yeah. So don't hate on yourself that you went to the gym and you didn't lift heavy. Be proud of the fact that you went to the gym. You still did something. Yeah. Even though you didn't feel like it, you know?
Did I ever tell you about the time that I cried after doing a workout?
No, I don't think so.
I felt like it went so shitty. I was feeling so garbage about myself. I actually cried after the workout.
Oh no.
And everyone was like, what's wrong? I'm like, I just gotta go.
Yeah.
Don't look at me.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt, I don't know. And I'm curious because I can't remember when this was, but I think I was just on a normal flow. So I wonder if I was like,
yeah,
which phase I was in during that time.
That's very interesting. Because I feel like, I know there's definitely times where I've like been super anxious and then done the workout and had a panic attack during the workout and then wanted to cry after the workout. But is that related to hormones, or is that just other-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a crier, but I cried.
Well, and then do you think the endorphin release, maybe there was something that you just needed to cry about?
Possibly.
That with the endorphins, they were just like, actually, you need to release this and you need to reset. So you need to cry now because now you're relaxed enough.
Possibly. I was really hard on myself, though, about feeling like shit through the whole workout.
Yeah.
And so I think that was what was the primary contributor to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was really interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
I hate that, but
we love a little emotional vulnerability.
That'd be my ego being, I hate that.
That's okay, though. Yeah. Okay, so another thing about this a TikToker is she wanted to refer to it as energy syncing or energy cycling, because like it's easier to refer to it as like energy, especially if you don't have a regular period or menstrual cycle. So you can just kind of like track your energy to find what works for you. But that takes time to learn what your energy levels are like and then make that work for you and then see if there's any differences, you know?
Yeah. I was thinking, even with energy cycling, like to bring it, like even with guys, right? They're on a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
But for those guys who are like late night gym lifters who are upset that they can't hit these PRs and they're storing fat or whatnot.
Yeah.
Go in the morning.
Yeah.
When your testosterone's higher and you can lift heavier, easier.
Exactly, right?
Right. It's not just, I guess, females. Like if you want to energy cycle your entire life just to make life easier.
Yeah.
Getting that workout in the morning. Because I know so many like midnight gym bros who are like pissed off at the world and angsty, and that's why they go at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And then they get upset that they're not seeing progress.
Yeah, and that's why it's important to have these conversations, because it can apply to everyone.
Yeah.
For men, you still need to, what are the best times in the circadian rhythm or 24-hour clock for you to work out? When's the best time to do this? When's the best time to do that? Like usually I feel like the work day and just the day in general is so ruled by how men work that we're already kind of like that. But I feel like there has to be more, especially when it comes to working out like that and ways to benefit what you're doing.
Yeah. That just clicked when you said energy sinking. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Because I do know a lot of people a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Who, are having frustrations about not doing it. And then they go to steroids, right?
Yeah.
Which then
messes you up anyways. Like,
yeah. Steroids get you done in the short term. In the long term, completely fucks you up because when your body normalizes again.
Yeah.
Then everything is like, it goes into survival mode. Everything is shot.
Exactly. It throws off everything.
So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And she recognized that not everyone can run their business around their cycle because not everyone runs their own business.
Yeah.
But she's just kind of like, you can apply this to things outside of work, like working out or planning get-togethers or doing things outside of work that use energy. And she just was kind of like, it helps you know you're not going crazy, that there's a reason for how you're feeling and how tired you're feeling and how sluggish you're feeling or how energetic and so good you feel. Like, there's a reason you're not going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next that I have is like your period in terms of nutrition. So your cravings change with your hormones. Mm-hmm. And you can relieve or prevent certain PMS symptoms by taking certain nutrients during each phase.
That's where one of the concepts of seed cycling happens, because it's brought up because it's a small, easy way to just get it into your food without having to like overhaul your entire diet.
Yeah.
And so the seed cycle is a mix of flax, pumpkin, sunflower, and sesame.
Oh, okay.
And each of those seeds are supposed to provide certain nutrients that balance your hormones during each part of your cycle. So it starts with flaxseed, and then it goes pumpkin, then it goes sesame or sunflower, then it goes sesame.
For each of the 4 phases?
Yeah, so that would be then for starting with follicular, not menstrual.
Okay.
So, because with the estrogen boost, the flaxseed is supposed to help balance that.
Right. And then I have, for your follicular phase, you should prioritize fiber, fermented foods, and foods high in zinc. So like eggs and whole grains and flax seeds.
I love eggs. But yeah, so that's just like a easy way that's supposed to benefit, just like as a small thing that's supposed to help boost your thing. You can sprinkle it on like literally anything.
Yeah.
Especially if you grind them up like fresh. If you get a whole flaxseed, you grind it up fresh, you put it on your toast, oatmeal, salads.
That's what. So then in baking, my family used ground flaxseed in replacement of eggs because my mom can't have eggs.
Yeah.
So would that then help, or because it's being baked and not in its raw form, will that change its effectiveness?
I think for like seed cycling for hormone balance.
Yeah.
I think raw, like fresh, I think that's best.
Okay.
Flax seeds as a whole, though, I think they're stable under high heat. I would need to confirm that. I know hemp hearts are stable under high heat, so baking those are fine.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure flax seeds as well are stable under high heat.
Okay.
You still get other flaxseed benefits, but I think if you're doing it for hormone, having like a raw, fresh ground seed is optimal.
Best. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then in ovulation, we're less focused on food and more focused on reproduction. So we want high quality nutrition over high quantity nutrition. Mm-hmm. So foods like quinoa, berries, and couscous are good because they help maintain a healthy gut microbiome, which is important for maintaining balanced hormones, which Michaela knows all about. And then we have the luteal phase, which is often associated with strong food cravings. And we also feel hungrier in this phase because we're not rebuilding the uterine lining.
Well, you're preparing for hibernation.
Yeah, you're preparing.
If you want to bring it back to like the way the
seasons. Yeah.
You're preparing for hibernation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, your body is still prepping for pregnancy. And so then heart healthy fats are good during this time. So avocados, walnuts, and slow digesting carbs like sweet potatoes and beans, which help you feel full without spiking blood sugar levels. And then eating more calories during this time helps stabilize blood sugar, which I don't understand how that works, but you do.
Stabilize, sorry, which one?
It's just eating more calories helps stabilize blood sugar. I don't know the role that blood sugar plays in hormonal balance.
It comes in with like cortisol and having to release insulin and everything like that. So
Okay.
it's you're working your body harder if your blood sugar stays higher.
Yeah.
And can lead to insulin resistance and whatnot.
Right. Okay.
But also food order, the way you eat each meal is actually affects your blood sugar as well.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's the best order to eat your food in then?
So, based off of like for blood sugar spiking, for other reasons, I think a different order is fine. But based on your plate, when you're looking at your dinner plate, right? For example, you have, I don't know, steak, potatoes, and beans.
Yeah.
To avoid spiking your blood sugar, the best order to eat that would be the vegetables first, so the beans, then proteins and fats, and then carbs.
Oh, okay.
Because carbs digest fastest in your system.
Yeah.
And so they're going to get into your bloodstream way quicker than everyone else. And that's why for a pre-workout, for example, having carbs is good because it'll get your blood sugar up. You'll get your glucose stores right up. Yeah. Right before you go and have like any strenuous activity.
Right.
But if you're trying to avoid the blood sugar spikes, going vegetables first, then proteins and fats, because proteins and fats digest at a way slower rate compared to carbs. I'm trying to think of the exact numbers. I think fat's like 9 calories per gram. Proteins is 7 calories per gram, and then carbs is 4 or 5.
Okay.
Blanking on it. But so based off of that amount, it also helps with like the breakdown and
interesting.
So proteins and fats break down slower in your system. Therefore, eating it first will halt your digestion. Yeah. And then they'll absorb slower into your bloodstream.
That's so interesting because that's how I tend to eat meals usually.
Carbs last?
Yeah, because I feel like I'd eat the salad and the veggies and stuff really yummy to get that out of the way. And then I will go meat usually because I don't like it. And then in this specific meal, I would eat the beans first because they're gross. Then I would eat the meat because I don't like steak. And then I would eat the potatoes because they're my favorite. And that's what I want to eat last.
Yeah. If you're talking about digestion, like if digestion is your issue, you should have your greens after because of the fiber. Right. So they help scrape everything out and process everything through that way.
Okay, so the only thing I haven't mentioned yet for nutrition wise is your menstrual phase, which your iron is low. You're literally bleeding. So you need to eat iron rich foods like nuts, lentils, and meat. And you also want to eat foods that reduce inflammation and replenish blood loss. So focusing on the eggs and the walnuts for omega-3s, fortified cereals and alternative milks for vitamin B12, which helps with fatigue when our energy levels drop.
And side note with iron, you do need to pair it with vitamin C for optimal absorption.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Do you know why that is? That's very interesting.
There's all sorts of things that for optimal absorption. I don't know the science, the micro science off at the top of my head, but it's the same way as like turmeric. You only get the benefits of turmeric if you add black pepper with it.
Really?
Yeah. So the curcumin doesn't absorb the same way without the black pepper. And
interesting.
It's a molecular thing.
Okay.
Because otherwise it competes and stuff.
Right.
There's competition, and so it just helps boost it into your bloodstream. I can't think of the molecular science about that right now, but yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah. And so then the last thing that I kind of have is like working your cycle in terms of sex and fertility. So basically, just know when you're ovulating. If you want or don't want to get pregnant, you should still know when you're ovulating, because when you're ovulating is when you are most likely to get pregnant. And when you are on your period, it is when you are least likely to get pregnant, but it's still, the chance is never 0. And so by eating a diet that caters to balancing your hormones and microbiome, it should help fertility. And I know Michaela's done a lot of research and stuff about that. But there's also this guy on TikTok who learned about the importance of food with fertility. So while him and his wife were trying to conceive and getting her even to a point where she could conceive because they had had struggles in the past, he was cooking all of these meals that are really high in the nutrients that she needs. And it actually worked. They actually had a kid this year, which is really, really cool.
Oh, fun.
So I'm going to link his TikTok as well because it's very interesting. And even if you're not trying to conceive, meal ideas that are good for you and your reproductive health. Mm-hmm. So it was still very interesting.
See?
But yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I know I mentioned to Michaela before we started recording, but I wish that the workout aspect of this was taken into account at our gym, because we do a lot of scans and a lot of challenges and stuff, and I would really like to know for myself how my cycle changes that, or if it does, even because of birth control, or just how that works, because I think it would be really interesting so that people aren't so hard on themselves, I didn't lose that much, or I lost too much, or whatever. But it's look at where you are in your cycle, because your body changes so much in those 28 days that unless you are tracking that, it can seem really defeating.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I do think that our coaches in particular, they are fairly good at mentioning water retention and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
How was your sleep the night before, and how was that?
Yeah.
I have redone many scans in that, because it's so our midway scan for the challenge that we're in now.
Yeah.
I went in to do my midway scan, and because I had just been sick the week prior,
right,
my scan was way off.
My scan was so bad.
And so my scan, it said that I had lost, what even the number?
Wasn't it 20 pounds or something ridiculous? No,
it said I'd gained weight.
Right.
Which I have, but the concerning was my skeletal muscle mass went down freaking 20% or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
My skeletal muscle mass went way lower than it's ever been. And it was your fat and your weight are way high. Yeah. So basically what it said is that I all of my muscle atrophied within a weekend.
Oh my goodness.
And I was that's not right. So I walk out, and I've done the spiral before where I've had bad scans and I just don't like what I see. Yeah. But this one I walked out, I was this is off, right? Yeah. And then the gym owner, she's yeah, absolutely. We're gonna do this time next week, come back in, rescan, because after you're eating and your life is normal again. Yeah. And I've gone up 2% muscle mass.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so with my rescan, my weight has gone up. Yeah. But my fat has gone down 0.1, not a lot.
Yeah,
so
but still enough.
Yeah, and then my muscle has gone up 2%. That's awesome. So that's where that weight gain is coming from. Yeah. And so when I stepped on the scale the second time and did the scan, I was okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Even if I'd lost a little bit of muscle mass, I wasn't banking on a good scan because I had just been sick. Yeah, exactly. But it was the ridiculous amount of muscle mass that said I went way down. Yeah. I should have pulled the image on my phone so I can tell you what it was, but it was stupid.
I should have taken a picture of mine. Yeah, mine, I had lost 2 or 3 pounds, and then I had also lost muscle mass, but my water retention was still really high. And so she was you're not eating enough. You have to eat so much more. This is not good for you, because I was just getting sick. Yeah. So my energy was already depleting, and now it's probably way worse because I haven't worked out in a week or eaten really well.
Yeah, so it said for my skeletal muscle mass, for the scan that was really off, it said I had gone from 85.3 pounds to 81.4.
Oh, wow.
And I was that's an extreme drop.
Yeah.
And then same with the fat. It said I went from 34.8 to 37.7.
Oh my goodness.
For that scan. Yeah. And so it's muscle way down, fat way up. And I was
that's not accurate.
And so what the actual thing is that I went from 85 to 86.9% or pounds, for skeletal.
Oh, okay.
And I went from 34.8 to 34.7 for body fat percentage.
That's sweet.
But So there's even things like that, like just being sick and all that contributes to your scan.
Yeah. There's just so much to take into account.
And where I agree with, like, there's a lot of things, though, especially when you're doing at home monitoring. If you're just stepping on a scale, you don't know what the...
Yeah, there's no breakdown of that.
Yeah.
It would just be, oh, I lost weight, or oh, I'm gaining weight. Like, that was the biggest thing when I first started working at the gym. I put on like 5 pounds, but it was muscle.
Yeah.
It was a good, healthy weight. I needed to put on those pounds. But if I was someone who was already struggling with their weight, those 5 pounds would have crushed me because I couldn't see where they were allotted.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. But that's pretty much all that I have.
Yeah. And so you wanted to know more about cortisol?
Yes.
All right. To put it into definition, cortisol is the hormone that governs one's hunger cravings, digestion, blood pressure, sleep-wake cycles, physical activity, and capacity to deal with stress. So it's a big one for you not to know. Yeah. It's a glucocorticoid, which increases blood sugar levels to be able to respond to fight or flight response with an increased energy.
Okay.
So it works in conjunction with epinephrine and norepinephrine.
Right.
By releasing those sugar, like glucose stores.
Okay.
So your body can just pump it out.
Right.
Right away. Right. So its main job is to increase blood glucose levels and store the excess in the liver as glycogen.
Okay.
Cortisol is the most potent glucocorticoid.
Okay.
And it, we already touched on blood sugar.
Yeah.
It also increases blood pressure.
Okay.
And it modulates inflammation.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's why when you're stressed and inflamed and everything is this and panicky and whatnot,
Yeah.
cortisol is part of that.
So the way we've been talking about it, I have it in my head that it is a bad hormone. But why
in excess.
Okay.
It's necessary for when you are in your fight or flight response.
Right.
But that's the issue now with cortisol and whatnot, is that we are getting that cortisol release off of walking outside normally.
Okay.
And so that's where it's bad, is that we are experiencing it in non-life-threatening situations.
Okay.
In forms of anxiety.
Right.
Which is then pushing on to adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
Which is why I've got you on maca to help support your adrenals and stuff.
Yeah.
Just overall health. And so where this is like really struggling is that cortisol's high, it's in your blood sugar's high.
Yeah.
Well, then your insulin is then trying to combat that.
Right.
When your insulin is exhausted, that's going to lead to insulin fatigue and whatnot. And so you will no longer get, what's the term? Insulin resistance.
Okay, yeah.
That'll lead to insulin resistance, which can then lead to diabetes.
Right.
Because your body can no longer produce enough insulin to take down your blood sugar levels.
Right.
So that's where it is bad.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And so with a high cortisol, this goes into fat storage. In your fat cell, like the more fat you have on your body, the more estrogen your body produces, because your fat cells produce estrogen, which is then harder on the liver because the liver has to clear out all the estrogens.
Right.
So when you're talking about estrogen excess in these balancing these hormones, having a higher body fat percentage adds to that.
Right.
Being like stressed all the time adds to that. Liver, if your liver's lagging, then that will add to that because it can't clear it out properly.
Right.
Which then causes other liver issues if not dealt with properly. And so all of that then adds, but like when you're stressed and you whatnot, then you're putting on more fat. And so it's just really hard to find that balance.
Yeah, definitely.
Once you're kind of on that slope.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're going to have to work a lot harder to get back up off that slope. And so that's where mediating anxiety and stress and whatnot. And then also helping in diet.
Okay.
Right? Because when you're stressed out, what kind of foods do you go to?
Junk foods.
Because it has like a lot of like gluten products and whatnot have an opioid effect on the brain.
Okay, yeah.
Which is calming. So it's an immediate relaxing factor.
Right.
When Journey was having a really bad day the other day and she's like, what can I help to calm myself down?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you want a quick fix? You're going to go in and get some of your donut or favorite donut or whatever, because that's going to calm you down immediately. Long term, not a good solution.
Not ideal.
Because the sugars and everything else then spikes your blood sugar more, which then leads to more insulin resistance.
Yeah.
Which then can cause diabetes and whatnot later down the line.
Yes.
Because your body can no longer...
Well, it's the same thing as like antibiotic resistance. If you're exposed to it so much, you're no longer going to react to it.
Yeah. One thing that is really interesting about this, is that because it's also putting the inflammation response and everything, you're getting a lot of those free radicals and whatnot in your system as well.
Okay.
Free radicals aren't good. They can assist in all sorts of like cancers and diseases and whatnot. But one thing that helps mediate the effects of cortisol is actually like oxytocin.
Oh, okay.
So, and you get oxytocin from social connections. And so there's a hypothesis out there that the reason why a lot of women live longer than men is because we are constantly mediating the effects of cortisol by bonding with your friends and doing things like that, where a lot of men tend to bottle up and fight through on their own.
Yeah.
So there's a hypothesis out there that that's why men die quicker, because there's all the stress and what you put on yourself. Yeah,
they're not mitigating their cortisol levels with oxytocin.
Exactly. So that one's interesting. Oh, another thing that's interesting with high cortisol, just as a side topic, not really part of cycling.
Yeah.
High cortisol constricts blood flow to the brain.
Oh.
Which, and it also adds like the damaging effects of high glucose to the brain. Which type 3 diabetes is a new term that's coming out.
Okay.
Or newish term, which has been associated with Alzheimer's.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So like stress can actually like end up shrinking your brain and everything.
That tracks, because we're learning more about how there are physical manifestations of stress that a lot of people didn't really recognize or know about.
Yep. And to loop back to like circadian rhythms, like I said earlier, cortisol spikes first thing in the morning. That's how you wake up in the day, right? That's how you start your day. And cortisol is lowest around midnight, and that's when your cells will be doing the most repairs. But with our issues with circadian rhythms is that we are usually looking at our phones around that time.
Yeah.
But when you look at the phone, like the light waves that come from technology, tell your brain that it is the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so that's why we are constantly living in the middle of the afternoon. So your cortisol is higher for that reason, because it's like, oh, we need energy because we're up and we're doing these things.
Yeah.
When you should be kind of getting used to the dark and not looking at any technology or artificial light.
Oh, so then, because your cortisol level is lowest at midnight, does that impact how, like, when you're at a sleepover with your friends and you all just kind of like, that's when the conversation turns like really deep and meaningful? Because there's none of that fight or flight. Yeah. It's like you're just allowed to be open.
Well, that, and then you also have more oxytocin, so you're open to the connections and whatnot. It's so social.
That's when you start like contemplating life.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And then another fun thing with cortisol, we won't drag on too long because I want to talk about hormones in relation to the cycle. If you live in high cortisol for too long, it actually then goes to low cortisol. So you can be living in high and low cortisol at the same time, which seems really contradictory.
Yeah.
But it's basically burnout. When you're in both of those together, that is what like burnout is. Because even when you are burnt out, you can be totally unmotivated and depressed, but you can also be stressing about every second of your day.
Yeah.
At least I do, personally.
Me. I relate to that. So then this might be a topic for another day. Becoming addicted to that stress.
It could be.
Cortisol levels probably.
Well, I think
we'll cover that in another episode, but I feel like that's another conversation that we could have.
Exactly. Yeah. So then moving on, I'll touch on estrogen and progesterone a little bit more. So estrogen has more than 300 biological tasks in the body, and it influences more than 9,000 genetic messages in a woman's body.
Which is so cool. That's so many.
it's a key player.
Yeah,
some would
definitely.
say.
Yeah.
And so the top 3 for female hormones is estrogen, thyroid, and then like insulin and whatnot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
For your health, it's like when you talk about women's hormones, that's kind of the pyramid for it.
Right.
And estrogen is basically what makes woman. It gives you your curves. It gives you your clear skin. It promotes all of things that like make you feel like, oh, you're glowing.
Yeah.
Right. The term "you're glowing" when you're pregnant is like because it's everything's there.
Yeah.
Progesterone, on the other hand, it is like calming. It aids in sleep. It keeps you level-headed and relaxed. The biggest problem with low progesterone is the PMS symptoms that we were discussing earlier, because you aren't in that like sedated, relaxed state.
Oh, cool.
And then in certain women with PMS, progesterone after ovulation changes your GABA receptors so that it doesn't respond to progesterone and other neurosteroids.
Okay.
So that's not good, because GABA is another kind of calming factor for your brain.
Yeah.
And so it's basically saying that some women you just get it really bad.
Yeah.
Right?
It just sucks.
Yeah. When progesterone is low and estrogen is dominant, this is where you see the mood swings, the headaches, the cysts, PMS, and sleep problems.
Okay.
And if progesterone is either too high or too low, it can lead to issues from weight gain, moodiness, endometriosis, and cancers.
Oh, wow.
With too much estrogen, there's a greater risk of infertility and endometrial cancer, which is why balance is where we're kind of going for.
Yeah. It feels interesting that like estrogen, which is like the female hormone, if you have too much of it, you can't get pregnant, which is like the female job.
Yeah.
It
leads to a lot of, again, breast cancers and stuff too. So
yeah,
this is another, I guess, idea with the pill, right? You're playing with these estrogens and whatnot in an artificial way.
Yeah.
Is that why we're seeing more breast cancers?
Yeah.
Now, the other factor that is endocrine disruptors, right?
Right.
Or xenoestrogens that we were finding in our, xenoestrogens that we're finding in our beauty products, candles, household cleaning products, just these chemicals that are then affecting your cells.
Yeah.
And xenoestrogens in particular can't be broken down by the liver, so they just live in your system constantly.
Yikes.
So that's where you're seeing cysts and breast cancers and ovarian cancers, and because of these, in part of these things.
Yeah.
Yes. Like I said, your body naturally produces more estrogen when you carry more fats. We are seeing obesity levels rise and everything. So this is where mediating and, again, balancing your lifestyle
100%
is important. And this is why, like, that kind of stuff is my reason for wanting to lose fat.
Yeah, exactly.
It's less about looking a certain way now for me. It's more of like a health, like
I need to balance my hormones for my long-term health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fun thing about progesterone, it's also a thermogenic, which boosts your metabolism and helps your thyroid out.
Nice.
It's also a natural diuretic.
Right.
And it stimulates GABA receptors. Like I said earlier, GABA has sedative properties.
Yeah.
That's like the overarching themes for each of them there.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, symptoms related to low progesterone is the PMS, fibroids, painful periods, mood issues including depression, endometriosis, endometrial precancer/cancer, anxiety and disordered sleep. And the top 5 reasons for low progesterone, some of these are in combination, is aging, stress, no ovulation, low thyroid, or high prolactin.
Okay.
Which is, prolactin's actually released when you're breastfeeding.
Yeah. Lactin as in lactating.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. It would be really interesting. I wish I had thought of this when I was doing my research, is like how your hormone levels change while you're pregnant, how you can use that hormonal change that is very natural to like sync.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, what kind of workouts you need to do while all that, which I feel like it would be fairly simple to kind of research what hormones are changing and then kind of apply it into. But I think that'd be very interesting.
Yep. And so some things that you can do to help with like PMS symptoms if you are in them.
Yeah.
Calcium, magnesium, and B vitamins.
Yeah.
All help level that out. Avoiding refined sugars. Acupuncture has been shown to help with a lot of people like during PMS time.
Yeah.
Exercise moderately.
Yeah.
Guided visualizations to induce calm feelings. Homeopathy, light therapy, herbals. Some herbals that are suggested. Talk to natural, like an herbalist.
Yeah.
Before going on this is like chasteberry and St. John's wort, though.
Okay.
People have found success with those.
Yeah.
And this is one thing that's like really interesting because I feel like almost everyone I know does suffer with PMS.
Yeah.
That is basically a progesterone imbalance.
Right.
So when it's in balance, you're not supposed to suffer from PMS symptoms.
Oh, weird.
Right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Weight remains stable during menstruation. Sleep is good quality and consistent. Mood is stable. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like it, like, if you are a person who grows a fairly thick uterine lining, the cramps are still going to be bad to get that out, even if your hormones are balanced, you know? Like,
yeah.
It could just be luck of the draw.
But PMS doesn't just mean the cramps, though,
yeah, there's other things.
And it's the prostaglandins that cause the cramping.
Okay.
Your face.
Well, I know of the cramping is like contractions of like micro contractions to push the uterine lining out, which I guess would be controlled by the prostaglandins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's it. Yeah. It's what causes the contraction of it. So it's not the progesterone. It's another thing.
The other thing.
Getting it out.
So in topic of refined sugars, I just learned this and I just think it's so interesting. So I'm just going to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. But like when you're eating sugar, it is immobilizing your immune system.
Yep.
Your T cells cannot fight what they need to, which is why when you're sick and even before you get sick, you really need to watch your sugar intake. Boom. And my dad will be so disappointed that it took me 22 years to realize that. Almost 23, it's almost my birthday, yay.
Well, because all you hear is that it weakens immunity, right? But if you're not told explicitly how.
Yeah, and it had never been presented in a format that I was able to receive.
Yeah.
And I was just shocked because it was like X amount of grams can immobilize your immune system for 30 minutes to 4 hours. And and if you're constantly eating sugar, your immune system's constantly immobilized. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. And that's one thing, like I grew up hearing all of these things, and now that I've noticed with the course,
yeah,
I'm learning these things and I'm like, oh, I'm just having light bulb moments.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah.
Because I've been told these things my entire existence, but I never knew why.
Yeah.
And I do need to get better with my communication of it, and you will see my communication of these factors get better as this podcast goes on.
Yeah.
But it's just like instead of telling kids, for example, don't eat that, it's bad for your immune system. Like, explain
what happens.
Yeah. What is this? How is this going on? Because then that maybe would have been received better.
Yeah. That's like a lot of who I am, is I appreciate when you explain to me why something does what it does. Don't just tell me what it does. Explain to me what's going on so that I can fully understand and grasp the concept so that I can apply it to my life.
Yep.
Because I've been told we don't eat sugar because it's bad for you. Okay, well, why? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we don't want you to get sick, which now makes sense because one time when I was I was on a date with my mom and we came across like a Cinnabon place and it just smelled so good. And my mom had real cinnamon buns before, so she knew how good they were and I didn't, but I could just smell it. And she's like, we'll get one, but you have to promise me you're not going to get sick. And I was like, yeah, like, it's not gonna make me throw up. But I understand now that she was like, you're going to overload your body with sugars. You need to promise me that you're not, like, obviously I can't promise that, but it was like,
yeah,
you need to understand that this is something that compromises your immune system, which I didn't, but now I do.
Yeah.
So that's a little tangent that I just wanted to share with everyone.
Well, that's growth, though.
Yeah.
Because now you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
right? And so you'll be able to express that going forward.
Yeah, and be more aware of, okay, I'm sick. My immune system is working in overdrive. Maybe I don't need to eat a sugar cookie, you know?
Yeah. I think the last thing I really need to touch on that I can remember right now is just excess estrogen, what it is. So excess estrogen then leads to water retention, breast tenderness, painful periods, mood swings and depression, hair loss, headaches, bloating, difficulty losing weight, fatigue, insomnia, decreased libido, foggy brain, and memory loss.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything, because it comprises
Yeah.
most of your system.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing as a female.
Yeah. Yeah, balance is so key, and homeostasis is just like, there's a reason why our bodies function the way they do and why equilibrium and homeostasis are so important. Mm-hmm. So that we can function.
See.
Like regular humans.
See. So that is, I think all of our points I
think we covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, all the points we want to touch on. A few detours.
But that's okay.
Anything else you want to add about cycle syncing?
I can't really speak on personal experience because the only time I've been aware of it, I've been on a hormonal birth control.
Yeah.
So it's something that I want to play with when I get off, but because I had such horrendous periods, I'm not about to do that anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
maybe once you do get off, though,
then I want to be like very aware of everything.
If this is supposed to help mediate, though, then you might be able to.
And so it's like I need to really watch what I'm eating and watch what I'm doing, but I'm not in a headspace where I can like do that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Start building those habits now, right? Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though the gym has been a stressful part for you, this challenge.
Yeah, it's just that I'm not eating enough, right? So I need to build the habits of fueling my body because I'm running on empty. And so I'm building fat and not muscle. Yep. Which is annoying.
Yeah.
And it was really tough to actually see that, but that's okay.
It's all part of the change. So let's keep on chugging.
But we're not really going to do a segment because this episode was long.
Yeah, we have no need for a segment. If there's anything we missed
or got wrong,
or you want us to go in depth about,
let us know. Yeah.
This was a highly requested episode, and hopefully we did it justice.
Yeah, I feel like we did. I was really excited about it.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed to see how much like Journey walks in and she's like word vomited everything. I'm like, wow,
I've got 6 pages of notes. She's like, oh, okay.
But I guess speaking of that, we are playing with the idea of doing blog posts. Yeah. So if you want this information in a blog post,
or even just like sources.
Yeah.
Like
we got all of that.
Yeah, and always feel free to reach out like, I'd love to read some of those journal articles or whatever. We have all the links saved so we can send them to you and be like, this is where we got our information from.
Exactly.
But yeah.
Merry ho-ho month, everyone.
And work on your ho-ho hormones.
I'm Mak Joy.
I'm Mak Jubes.
We are Sometimes Ciabatta Slaps.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, you can find us at Sometimes Ciabatta Slaps on just about every social platform.
Yeah. We out there.
Yeah. When you Google it now, we're the faces you see.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's good to see.
Yay. Well, anyways, thank you.
Ta-ta for now.
ttfn.
Bye.